Hi, I'm Janice Corrales, and this week we wanted to address a question that I've been receiving the most in the last 2 weeks since we did our provisional waiver video. And if you haven't seen it, you can go back and look at that and take a look at some information about the provisional waivers. But the most common question we've been getting is from U.S. citizen spouses, which I refer to often as USCs, which are U.S. citizen spouses, who want to petition for their spouse who came in illegally, but they haven't done anything yet, and they just found out about the provisional waiver, and they're wondering, how do I get this started? I do want to petition now that I found out that they're not going to be gone for months at a time. How do I get the process started? So that's the most common question, that along with what do I need to bring you, what do I need to bring my lawyer? So for the I-130, the first thing you need to do is form I-130, and this is like the basic step that gets everything started. It's one of the basic forms for any kind of family-based petition. Like I said, it's a basic form. You need to do this as soon as possible because right now the processing time for this form is about 9 months. So that means that's how long they're taking to approve it, and without an I-130 you can't go forward for consular processing, so you want to make sure you do your I-130 as soon as possible. The I-130 requires the petitioner, which is a U.S. citizen spouse. In this case, because we're talking about provisional waivers, we're just going to focus on marriages with U.S. citizens. So the petitioner would be the U.S. citizen spouse, and the beneficiary would be the person that they married who is from another country, who came into the country without documentation or who's not supposed to be here at this moment, and has unlawful presence. So for the I-130, we have a list up on our website that we're going to upload it right now with the video that says everything that's required of the person. This is what we like our clients to bring us when they're going to fill out the I-130, and the forms that go with it. There are 2 forms that go with it. It's called the 325A. It's one form, but you need it for each one, the petitioner and the beneficiary. So that's going to go with it. And for that form, it's basic biographic information, but there are a few quirky questions in there, so we like to give people a heads up so they can bring us all that information as well, because we like to fill out the forms as soon as possible and mail them off even before the person's done paying us, because we want to get it out there as soon as possible. So for the 325A, one of the questions that some people aren't prepared for is about their parents. They want to know both the petitioner and the beneficiary. They want to know both of your parents' full names, where they were born, and their birth date, and where they are living now. If they're deceased, you can just say deceased, but they do want that information, so make sure you bring it or have it. The other thing that they want is they want the employment history of both people for the last 5 years. So you want to know your jobs, their addresses, and the dates that you worked them. And also they want your address for the last 5 years. So they're going to want to know where you've moved around, what dates you were at, zip code, everything. So you want to gather all that before you even come, if you can, to make the process go faster and smoother. Along with your 325A, you're going to have to prove a few things with your petition. The first thing you need to prove is obviously that the petitioner is a U.S. citizen to begin with. So you could do that with a birth certificate saying that the petitioner was born in the United States, or a U.S. passport, or the naturalization certificate that if the person became a citizen later on, having been born somewhere else. So you want to bring that. Aside from that, and we're not going to discuss permanent residency cards because we're only going to discuss U.S. citizens, but aside from that, you're going to have to prove that it's a valid marriage. To prove that, you want a marriage certificate, obviously, and also if either party or both parties were married previously, you want all the divorce papers for any previous marriages, or death certificate if the person was widowed. This shows that you even had the right to get married to begin with, and it is a valid marriage. So that's step 1. On top of that, we also want to prove in the I-130 package that it's a real marriage, that when the people went into because they wanted to be together for real, and that they were in love with each other and so forth, and that they didn't just do this for documentation purposes or as fraud of some sort. So you want to prove that it's not fraud and that it's a real marriage. On top of the marriage certificate, any birth certificates of children that you have together is really helpful, because it proves that you guys are procreating and have a real relationship, a normal relationship. So any birth certificates of children that have been born is helpful. On top of that, pictures. Bring in as many pictures as you can from the wedding, pictures of when you were dating, how your relationship has developed, special events, graduations, Christmases, birthday parties, anything of that sort. You want to show that you were together during special events, vacations, that you take vacations together if you have those pictures. If you've ever baptized another couple's child, that also shows that you are a unit. They also like to see pictures of you or your spouse with each other's family members or families. That's a little difficult sometimes, I understand, for people who have family in other countries, but if you have these pictures, bring them in, because it shows that you are a family unit and that you interact with each other's families and are a real marriage. So that's pictures. On top of pictures, and again, everything I'm going to go through to prove that you're a real marriage, a bona fide marriage as we would call it, you don't have to have everything I mentioned. You just bring as much of the stuff that I'm mentioning that you do have. So another thing you want to prove is that you live together, that you cohabitate. So if you have a rental agreement or a rental lease that shows both your names and you live in the same place, you bring that. Rent receipts. Any mail you receive to the same place that shows that you have the same listed address works. Utility bills listed to the same address. What else? Anything of that sort. Anything that has both of the names. Also IDs. If you both have driver's licenses or consulate IDs or whatever that have the same address, it shows that you're both listing the same address. Gym agreements or contracts that have the same address. Basically anything that shows you live together. On top of that, we want anything that commingles funds or that show that you have joint documents and property. For property, you could have joint car titles if you have that, or a mortgage if you have that. For commingling of funds, you want joint bank accounts. If you have any joint bank accounts, bring the statements. If you have joint credit cards, bring those statements. If you have your joint taxes, you want to bring those because it shows that you're sharing money as a unit and you're a real marriage. Also, if you have life insurance policies with each other named as a beneficiary, that also shows a real union. Also, insurances through each other also works. So anything that shows cohabitation, that you're mingling your money as one unit, and anything that is that you're a real marriage. Also, you could use affidavits from other people if you're missing some of this stuff, or you don't feel like your evidence is good enough because you just got married and hey, you just moved in together and you really don't have a lot of bills together. So, you know, you kind of work where you can. A lot of people don't have joint income taxes together yet because they just got married. So if you don't have joint income taxes but you have a rental lease, it still works. You just kind of bring in as much stuff as you can. We look through it and we do what we can with it. So that's all the stuff you want to gather. Just your proof of your valid marriage, a real marriage, and that the person is a U.S. citizen to be able to petition for you, and your biographic information. On top of that, you're going to want 2 passport pictures for the beneficiary and the petitioner. So you bring those in, and also you need a $420 money order made to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and that's the cost of the petition that goes with it. That's pretty much all you need, but we do recommend for this process that you see a lawyer for the I-130 because a lot of people come in halfway through the process to come see us because they got stumped along the way, or USCIS is asking them for more evidence and they didn't do it right the next time, and we definitely recommend seeing a lawyer for the waiver part of the process because that's a little bit more overwhelming than a lot of people know. It is a very big project. So for the waiver, definitely see a lawyer. For the I-130, it's good to bring all these things to a lawyer to do for you and to make sure you have enough evidence and that everything is in order. Also, if you have any history of crimes, or if you have ever met with an immigration official over anything and there might be a deportation of some sort that you might not know of, you also want to see a lawyer and be fingerprinted to make sure there is nothing else out there that might make you inadmissible on top of just being here without having the proper documentation to come in. So these are all things to consider, and I hope this really helps anyone who is trying to gather all their documents for their I-130 so they can start the process. We're going to put the list up on the website so that anyone can use, so they can bring their stuff to us or to another lawyer, but we hope it's really helpful, and if you have any questions, definitely feel free to call us or email us at any time. Thank you.